Hi, my name's Narissa, and I'll be talking about Brave, a nonprofit organization started by Nina, Kim, Edwin, and myself. Our mission statement is Brave is a nonprofit organization that assists battered women to safely escape and provide resources to ensure a successful transition. Our vision statement is a world in which every battered woman feels empowered and in control of their situation. There are a number of issues that battered women face when trying to leave a violent relationship. The threat of violence or death to themselves or their children, financial hardships, taking care of themselves, their children. This would include housing and finding adequate work. There are also emotional and psychological issues. Religious beliefs can be an issue if the religion supports keeping the family together or if they look negatively upon marital separation, and coping with the violence despite having the support from our judicial and social systems that do not adequately respond and protect against the violence. In order to effectively respond to this issue, battered women need assistance, both short-term, so they are able to escape the violence when they are at most risk of violence from the perpetrator, and long-term, so they can ensure they feel in control and empowered to start a new life on their own and not go back to their perpetrator. Some of the stakeholders involved would be the judicial system, such as police, public housing, job training and placement, childcare, financial aid and support, such as food stamps, and therapy and support groups. Battered women face a number of issues when dealing with violence, such as anger, anxiety, depression, fear, PTSD, and many others that can either show in the present or in the future. Between 40% and 60% of female victims suffer from PTSD, and the injuries they face and the signs of being strangled are usually the most common when dealing with male to female violence. The physical and emotional injuries are not the only thing females have to deal with. 16 to 60% of males will discourage their female partner from working. They don't want them to be successful. They don't want them to grow within a company so then they can leave them in the future. And 33% to 46% prevent their female partner from working by either making them late so they can turn off their alarm clock or cutting their hair so they're too embarrassed to go to work. The number one issue would be not finding childcare for their children, so they are forced to stay at home. Male to female intimate partner violence victims do seek welfare assistance, but because of the lack of economic support, it is difficult for them to find any assistance. 15% to 32% of welfare recipients reported male intimate partner violence. Police usually practice a hands-off approach. They don't want to deal with male to female intimate partner violence. They like to think of it as a private matter between the couple. If female victims don't have any protection from the police, then how can they seek any assistance? Research also indicates that courts rarely sanction the most assaultive men in intimate partner violence cases, and usually the sentences rarely deter the high-risk abusers. Intimate partner violence relationships can end with the female leaving, separating or divorcing the partner, or by death, by either natural causes or homicide. Leaving the relationship can be deadly if not fatal. A study shows that women who access shelter services compared to those who didn't were significantly more likely to leave abusive relationships. Approximately 40% of sheltered women and 70% of community battered women do leave, and only 33% will return. The shelters are able to assist women with safety planning by finding them a place to go in the event of them leaving their abuser, or if they were to have money hidden in a separate account, that way the abuser is not aware of this hidden money. getting a second set of car keys or packing a bag with important documents. Little things like this can go a long way for a battered woman in an intimate partner violent relationship. Shelter services have been effective in helping women leave their abuser, but every type of agency, police, health care, and social service agencies all need to improve their personnel behavior. There are many consequences and effects if a battered woman were to leave a violent relationship. For the person that's committing the battering, they usually are more enraged when the victim transitions into their new life, some sort of jealousy that they can take care of themselves on their own develops, and the effects are on the victim because it takes courage and strength for them to transition, especially when and if victims blame themselves for the battering, or if they are dependent on the male, whether it's financially or emotionally. Social exchange theory speculates that with social interactions, there's usually an exchange of rewards and punishments between people. At some point, the male abuser may not feel competent enough to financially provide for their family, so in order for them to compensate, they become more abusive. The theory of economy distress resource theory addresses that victims are uneasy when leaving their partner. One member of the family, usually males, they make more money for their household and they can successfully pay the mortgage. So the victim may feel that if they leave their partner, they would then become unstable. And the struggle of maintaining their house and paying the mortgage can become unhealthy and stressful, even when there are more children in the family. Additional circumstances that could complicate the choice to leave include financial uncertainty. Many victims of domestic violence that either don't have jobs or financial independence, and this then leaves the abuser to take care of the household all on their own. Victims that have a source of income, they may be forced to abandon their resources when leaving the abusive situation, and this can place them in a circumstance without employment or proper funding to take care of themselves. It is difficult for a female to leave their abuser because of these financial consequences, and if the victim does file a protective order or restraining order, the victim still faces obstacles. Usually the abuser won't follow the rules of the protective order or restraining order, thus making it obsolete.
Collaborating with various community members and groups through a multifaceted approach will help us increase our capacity to better serve victims. Using a short-term and long-term intervention strategy where we offer support and resources before, during, and after leaving an abusive relationship, as well as for those women that choose to stay. Some resources that we would provide include a 24-hour support line for counseling, safety planning, and referrals, advocacy both in-house and on-site, where we would go to the victim with follow-ups for those that wanted them, temporary housing shelters and low-income permanent housing, job training and job placement, legal advice for things like divorce, child custody issues, restraining orders, moving away, etc., safety and escape planning, support groups, counseling and therapy, referrals and assistance obtaining financial aid, food stamps, clothing, childcare, and other community-based resources. And finally, all services would be provided in multiple languages.
My theory is on the individual differences theory. My theory of change is if victim seeks help from our center, then we can see if her partner suffers from a type of individual difference. If we pinpoint the type of individual difference, then we can help the victim to understand their partner has a problem and needs help. If the victim understands their partner needs help, and they are not the problem, then the victim can utilize other resources to either get the help for themselves and their partner. This ties into our group's theory of change, because if we act as advocates on behalf of battered women, then women will feel supported in their critical time of need. If women feel supported, then women will feel empowered to act on their own behalf and ask for assistance. If women feel empowered to ask for assistance, then we will have the ability to work with women to provide services. If we provide services to women, then women will be given choices and be in control of their situation. My theory is on individual differences theory. The type of individual difference include psychopathology, psychological trait differences, and psychobiological mechanisms. Psychopathology is a mental disorder that perpetrators and/or victims may have. This suggests that individuals who mistreat children, dating partners, spouses, elders, or other family members are seriously disturbed. Most couples can maintain a relationship because both of them are putting in the necessary work, but some relationships have partners that are working more than the other, and then this becomes unhealthy for the person and ultimately the relationship. Adolescence is a crucial time in one's life to acquire certain lifelong characteristics, for them to grow up and guide themselves as an adult. The more difficult the person's childhood, then the more difficult their adulthood will be. They will then pass these traits off to their offspring, and sometimes unintentionally, thus creating a vicious cycle, unknowingly.
Hi, my name is Nina, and I will be talking about the classical operant and avoidance learning theories. So first, to define them, the classical learning theory involves learning through the emotional response of fear that a victim learns as a signal or cue of violence they have been victim to. So for example, a battered woman may learn to fear the police because they have become a signifier of the violence she experienced. So every time she was a victim or was victimized, the police were involved, and so she learns to become fearful of the police. The avoidance learning theory is the averting of classically conditioned situations. So for example, the woman who has learned to be fearful of the police may now avoid police altogether. And finally, in defining the operant learning theory, an offender learns that his or her abusive behavior creates compliance from the victim and ultimately is seen as a reward for the offender. And so the offender reoffends. Addressing the problem. So a victim that is conditioned to fear a signal or cue of violence will likely not seek help from places that evoke these signals or cues. So offering a wide range of services and offering them in different approaches or formats is important to ensuring the victim's comfort as well as our approachability. The goal is to be mindful of the complex nature of domestic violence and to be respectful and sensitive to each victim's unique and challenging situation. So a few examples may be offering female and male advocates, and most importantly, transparency each step of the way by giving the victim control of their next steps. So in the example of the woman who is learned to be fearful of police officers, she may not want to contact the authorities and she may not want to take that next step. And it will be important for us to be respectful and sensitive to the victim's wishes and give them the control on what to do.
Resource theory primary concept is power. The power to control people by key factors such as income, education, or physical. Several studies have found a strong correlation between couples who are in low income, unemployed, and uneducated. This can lead to risk factors such as physical, sexual, and psychological abuse. However, the amount of money is not the only concern, as we have to include a debt-to-income ratio and who earns the most income. Women who are the main source of income can face intimate partner violence, as some male partners may feel inferior and may lack a job or educational skills. In addition, if the male partner does have a job but spends several hours at work, this can lead to an increase in stress and can increase violence within the family.
The social exchange theory speculates that individuals in a social interaction will weigh if it will maximize their rewards while minimizing their punishment. In a sense, this means how rewarding it is to be in this relationship versus how much punishment will they receive for the actions they are putting upon the other individual. This theory relates to battered women because the woman may be dependent financially and even emotionally to the male. Even though they are being battered, she may feel a sense of fault because she cannot make the same income, if any income there is she makes. For the female, this is rewarding because she has companionship and support financially. In this case, the punishment is worse than the reward because the male will feel the sense of stress as from being the main source of income. Ultimately, that will divert to committing violence or battery towards the woman to compensate for the stress levels. This has a long-term effect on the female as well if there's any children present in the household, because even when they are able to escape to a new lifelong trauma, to a new life, there is still long-term trauma that will go with both female and child. The child will become aggressive and antisocial while growing up. But having the BRAVE program, this will help females and children move forward with their lives physically and mentally.